Hey hi folks, it's Lev. Welcome back to another video. For those of you who are new, I use he and pronouns. For those of you who watched my previous video about being physically incapacitated by theme park rides, it turns out I have a concussion. That's why I keep getting headaches. And yes, it's been a week since the ordeal, and I'm still recovering from the aftermath of the concussion that I got from theme park rides. Yes. But in today's video, it's sort of a different story time. Sort of a story time, part story, part reflection, both two in one. And it's about how I rode 100 Ks on a motorcycle for the first time in my life, despite feeling terrified. So let's go. I briefly adjusted the camera angle, that's why it's a little bit different. I moved it a little bit closer, that's why it's a little bit different from the previous shot in the intro. My mic keeps doing this, but I really don't know how else to make it stay, but oh well. Yes, story. So I got my motorcycle learner permit in March 2022, so March last year. And I live in Victoria, Australia, and I really don't like the angle of the mic. And in Victoria, Australia, where I live, the learner permit only lasts for 15 months, while a car learner permit lasts 10 years. And I got my motorcycle license in March last year. And so it's been a year, I only have a few more months before it expires. Yes, and I haven't ridden, I started riding again like a month ago, but before that, between March last year and like a month ago, when I started riding again, I did not get on a bike. Life things happen, I guess, and I didn't prioritize practicing motorcycling, and I spent a lot of time on the relationship I had last year, and then top surgery was coming up, and then I was scared of falling and then wrecking the possibility of getting surgery and having to postpone surgery. So a few months before surgery, I'm like, I'm not gonna ride a motorbike. And then after surgery, I needed a few months to recover, and now here I am. Yeah, so life things, and I didn't get on a bike until a month ago again. And I started again by riding around my neighborhood. I think this fluff thing will block out the wind, a lot of it, hopefully. What was I saying? Yes, I started again by riding around my neighborhood at like 20 Ks, and I got up to 30 Ks, 40 Ks, and then 60 Ks. But the last time I rode 80 Ks, or anything above 60, was in March last year when I did my learner's license assessment. Yeah, so I've basically been riding again for the past month, and before the motorcycle license assessment, not for learners, like a P license or unrestricted motorcycle license, there's something called a check ride. It's legally required before going for the assessment. Like, they won't let you do the assessment unless you do the check ride first. Check ride is basically an on-road coaching session, so it's like a group of students and an instructor going off onto the road and learning safe riding, lane positioning, and all that stuff. And I did that yesterday, and after like a few loops and like, I guess, basic bike maneuvering in the closed area where they taught the bike riding, like learning how to brake, navigate curves, like around like a very slow bike maneuverability, basically, and knowing how to brake, slow ride, go around corners. We went basically onto the main road with all the traffic and the highway. And I hadn't ridden 80 Ks an hour in over a year, and I've never ridden up to 100 Ks an hour in my entire life. And I was terrified. And the instructor knew I was nervous because I told him I'd never ridden up to 100 Ks, and I haven't ridden 80 Ks in over a year, and I'm terrified. So initially, when we got onto the road, which is basically getting on an 80 K highway, I followed him. Basically, I was like directly behind him. And I was even scared of getting up to 80 Ks an hour. Like, I felt my heart beating, and I was breathing like like that. Like I never really breathe like that, even when I feel stressed from like other life things. It's because on a motorbike or motorcycle, I ride automatic. I don't know how to ride manual, so I ride like a motor scooter. It's very dangerous, and basically one wrong move from me or traffic, like, you know, other drivers disregarding motorcyclists can be lethal. Because in a car, right, side rant, in a car, right, we're surrounded by metal. We're sitting in a car, there's seat belts, we're basically in a metal box. And if impact happens, it hits the car, not us directly, like the person directly. On a motorbike, I'm basically, if I get hit directly, and there's no metal protecting me, and I will fly. I could fly. Or if I fall, I'll skid, and it's not great. Basically, it's very dangerous. And I was scared because of that. I was scared of losing control of the bike, not knowing to control the bike again at 80 Ks and 100 Ks, and some accident happening. But yes, I'm following the instructor, and I was going a bit too slow because the gap between me and him was like massive, because I was a bit scared. But later on, right, as I started getting comfortable with 80, and then I had to rev up to 100 because the highway went from 80 Ks an hour to 100 Ks an hour, and I wasn't gonna go 80 on a 100K road. I started revving, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm actually doing it. Like at this point, right, like I didn't really think, like there was no time to like think and overthink it, because once we did the little practice inside the closed course, we got onto the highway, and there was basically no turning back from that point. Can't exactly go 40 on a 100K highway. So I'm like, oh shit. And I was like revving the bike up to 100 Ks. And I was terrified. But as I went for, I don't know how many kilometers along the highway, I'm like, yeah, this isn't so bad. Like basically, as I started getting used to riding at 100 Ks, it became a lot less terrifying. I knew how to control the bike. I did, otherwise I wouldn't be filming this video today, because I'll probably be severely injured to the point where I wouldn't be able to film a video. Yeah, my train of thought just like went off a cliff. So 1 second. And at 100 Ks, I feel the full force of the elements. Like I was wearing like helmet with visors down, and like a jacket, like the protective jackets. I was wearing like dragon jeans, like basically full body clothing from head to toe. And I was wearing like steel-toed boots and everything, like full-on protective gear. Like I could feel the wind as I was going 100 Ks an hour, right? I could feel the wind on my neck, because there was nothing like covering my neck. It was like, I felt the drag and like the resistance of the wind as I was going this way so fast. The wind was like, I felt it coming this way. And I'm like, this is not something I feel when I drive a car, because again, I'm surrounded by metal, and I'm not exposed to the elements. Even in rain, I'm not exposed to elements in a car because I'm surrounded by metal and glass. Feel the full force of the elements. After the fear subsided, it took a little while. We were riding for like an hour and a half, so I had time to like adjust and get used to it. As I got used to it, I started, like fear and terror turned into like a thrill, because I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like going so fast on a bike. It's really exhilarating. Despite being dangerous, motorcycling being dangerous activity, it's really exhilarating. And now that I've successfully gone 100 Ks on a highway, like 80 and then 100 Ks on a highway, and being able to control the bike at that speed, right? Being able to control the bike at that speed, it's like, it's given me a boost of confidence, and it's basically evidence. It's like concrete evidence to my subconscious that I know what I'm doing, and if I trust myself, then I can do it. I also filmed I'll link a video below called A Lesson in Self-Trust, and that's when I fell off my motorbike when I was going super slow because I was overthinking it. I'll link that video below. Basically, brief gist of the video is I fell because I was leaning when I was turning right because I was overthinking the turn, and then I didn't need to lean. Like, I was going so slow, and then it messed up my throttle hand, and then I was like half accelerating, half not accelerating. I was leaning like this, and then I fell off my bike at like 10 Ks or 20 Ks. So yes, I'll link that down below if you would like to watch that video. But yes, back to this story. Yes, give me self-confidence and self-trust that, like, you know, you can go at 100 Ks an hour on this motor scooter, and you can control the bike. You need to trust that you can control this bike moving forward. You need to believe that you can do it, because if you start overthinking again, you're gonna confuse your throttle hand, you're gonna confuse everything, and then you're gonna be injured. Or forbid, die, because it's very dangerous. And there's like not that much room for error when riding at 100 Ks an hour on a motorcycle. There really isn't. I guess the lesson I got out of this experience is that sometimes to overcome fear, because I was terrified, I was terrified knowing that when the instructor's like, we're gonna go on the highway, it's gonna start at 80 and it's gonna go to 100, and I'm like, I was like internally shitting myself, right? And I was visibly nervous, and I was also, when I was riding, I was like so tense. My shoulders were like this, and another student on the course with me was like, I noticed you were really tense, your shoulders were really tense. Like, when I was riding, I felt so tense, and I was like holding on for dear life, literally. Like, I was so tense. It's not a great thing because it really ties out my shoulders. What was I saying? Yes, the lesson is sometimes time pressure is what I need to overcome a fear, because like if there's a fear, like the riding 100 Ks, there's a fear, and my anxiety doesn't have time to like dwell on it. My anxiety doesn't have time to consume it and then start second guessing myself and then start overthinking things, right? It's basically that whole cycle was short-circuited because I had no time to do that, because it was like, you gotta act now. You gotta, like, we're getting on the highway now. You really don't have time to overthink this because you're gonna get on the highway. And then at that point, I didn't think and I just did it, and then I was successful. So time pressure sometimes works, because I feel like I'm going in a loop, sorry. I guess it's basically like feeling the fear and not dwelling on it and just doing it anyway, which is a lot easier than it sounds. I speak from someone who had severe social anxiety, who couldn't say hi to people, let alone make YouTube videos and post them on the internet. So I speak from experience when I say, like, feeling very anxious about something, feeling very fearful about something, and then having to take some sort of action to help break the fear cycle and not be stuck in this fear cycle is very, very hard. But unfortunately, I guess the reality of it is that if we don't do anything and if no action is taken, it's really hard to break out of the anxiety cycle or the fear cycle, or overcome the fear of something we have. In my case, riding 100 Ks an hour on a motorbike. I also found it helpful to do this. Like, if I were to go 100 Ks an hour on a highway for the first time by myself, I would be like, no, it helps to have, in my case, there was like a professional instructor there with me with a bunch of other students, and we were all riding together. So that's something that really helped ease the anxiety, because I know that I'm not the only person with a motorbike on the road there, because the highway was full of traffic. It was very traffic. It was very truck traffic heavy, and there weren't many motorbikes on there. And I like it, again, with riding a motorcycle, it's very vulnerable compared to driving a car. And being on a motorbike next to a giant truck or a giant car is intimidating as hell. But back to my point, yes, doing it with someone can be really helpful. So if you need to enlist support from someone you trust to overcome a certain fear or work towards overcoming a certain fear, that is completely okay as well. I think that's all the thoughts I had for this video. I guess in summary, work towards overcoming fears one step at a time at your own pace, at a rate that you feel comfortable with, and break it down like a big thing, like the end goal, whatever we're trying to do. Just break it down into very manageable steps. Like even the tiniest step possible, it's okay. Like break it down. And something I said summary and then I have another point. So here we go. Last point, I promise. It's like I can see it like as a step thing. It's like the end goal's here, and then we have to get comfortable at this level. Like I see progression as like a leveling up thing. It's like I start here, complete beginner, and then I level up to here, and then I get comfortable with this level. I work on the things at this level until I get bored and sick of it. I get bored to death with it and I get sick of it. And that's when I know I got it down packed. And then I move up to the next level, and then I do that until I'm sick of it, and then I move up to the next level until I get sick of it, and then it's progression that way. It's not, I don't like jumping from here and then I'm like, I do it once and then I jump it to the next level and then do it once, and then it's like I like to establish like competency and like confidence at a certain level, and then make that my new baseline, and then from that baseline work up to the next baseline, make that my new baseline, and then from there work it up to my next baseline, and it just keeps going from there. Yeah, thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Different scenery today instead of my dark room, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Sorry, that was a delay.